Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Dr. Chris, and I lead the Lightwork Spiritual Ministry. On the right hand side, you'll find different ways to connect with our communities. We are hosted on Mighty Networks. We do possess a website. We have a YouTube station and a Facebook page. Feel free to follow or subscribe or join us. Today's topic is on breaking free of the dogma that limits the wonders of the divine source, creator, spirit, God. And if these names don't resonate with you, feel free to substitute them with a name that does resonate with you. My fellow humankind, it has been laid upon my heart to discuss the wonders of the divine source, creator, spirit, God. Through exploring the plethora of ways in which we limit an all knowing, infinite provider, ominous existence, an Alpha and Omega that is, was, and ever shall be, by our finite thinking and our monolithic sourcing of concepts. Let's consider some of these concepts and how they might intertwine with the endless ideologies of science and mysticism, such as the Big Bang by Lamatur and creation by God, medicine and miracle, fact and belief, scientific law and spiritual law. Now, I know at this point I have upset many of my Christian fellow communities by daring to speak of such ideas. I assure you, this is not my intention. Instead, my intention is to give life to the very words the same communities believe to be living sacred words. So let's begin. Within the confines of our faith dogmas, we often knowingly and unknowingly restrict the very omnipotent existence we state is everywhere and in everything by simply looking outwardly for such an existence. And within the studies of science, we consistently evolve any theory as new evidence is produced, and yet dismiss the idea that an omnipotent existence could be present even as evidence is revealed. Earlier, I asked us to consider some concepts. Let's break those concepts down. When we consider about how we came about or how Earth came about, we can look to Genesis 1's creation story. And we learn that as God spoke, creation occurred. Then in John 1:1, we learn that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God and was God. In science, the Big Bang Theory by Lamator, we have a series of events occurring to create such an explosion that produced space, time, and matter. Never does it discount that a word wasn't spoken. Rather, it kind of gives us the details of how, when that word was spoken, existence came into being. Let's move on. With respect to healing, we have medicine and miracles. Yet, when we consider medicine, we often believe it to be science based. But where did that invention come from? Where did the ideas to bring different chemicals, ions, and such together to bring about a cure that subsides illness come from? Wouldn't that be classified as a miracle that an inventor came up with such an idea for a cure? On the other hand, what's a miracle? Isn't it just happenstance of inspiration that leads someone to breathe a certain way, adjust one's life a certain way, or come across a chance encounter that leads to a cure? In both cases, they're initiated by inspiration. Where does this inspiration come from? God, source, divine? Now let's consider, what's the difference between fact and belief? In geometry, we are taught about the Pythagorean theorem. That's a belief. Theories are beliefs. Yet that Pythagorean theorem is treated as, but it can't be fact unless it's proven. At the same time, someone holds a belief, they're basing it on their perceived evidence. Evidence gives way to facts. Which is more factual, a theory or a belief? I would say they both have a perception. Therefore, they both are the same. Let's consider the laws that govern our existence. We have spiritual laws and scientific laws, and both produce cause and effect. You follow them, you get good consequences. You don't follow them or you break them, you don't get so good consequences. And yes, both can be broken simply by opening up different insights, scenarios, structures, and possibilities. We just need to remember by doing so, in either case, one is opening themselves up to a whole new series of consequences. In closing, my purpose for such a topic is to highlight how one's perspective and limiting views may be obscuring or limiting the very premise of their initial statement of belief. For if we truly investigate the wonders of the divine, source, creator, spirit, God, and consider the plethora of ways in which we limit an all knowing, infinite provider, ominous existence, an Alpha and Omega that is, was, and ever shall be by our finite thinking, monolithic conceptual ideas, we might just experience how unlimiting such a God is. For in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And God is the Alpha and Omega of all existence. Go, be with these concepts and unlimit our thoughts towards the divine source, creator, spirit, God, and recognize all the ways in which the divine source, creator, spirit, God exists.